All right, thank you, Harry. So I will say I gave this roundup last year, and about 75% of the people had left to come to AASLD. So one of the benefits of doing this work and having the meeting co-located at AASLD is that people are hanging around. I will say there was about 50 abstracts or so. I've narrowed this down to 20, and with the caveats that the late breakers are missing. They weren't public yet, and I will say that it looks like there's going to be a lot of interesting data presented in the late breakers, so you'll have to do your own legwork on that. And I chose these from the perspective of an immunologist, so, take that with what you would like. Anybody wants these, I'll put the email address up there again. I'm happy to send it to you. So I kind of lumped these together in terms of ongoing clinical trials in no particular order, just to kind of give everybody a preview what they are with just a couple of taglines from each one. And so, one of them, the first one here is some follow-up data from Arbutus, and this is patients off treatment, and this is one of their ongoing studies with the new CAM and siRNA. And these patients, this sort of overall statement here at the bottom is where I put most of the conclusions, is that 8 weeks after discontinuing the treatment, many of these patients had continued suppression of HBs antigen, which I think is becoming what we're establishing for the siRNA, the ASO drug. So this is follow-up data here, and this has already been alluded to during the meeting today as well, with some additional data being presented with the therapeutic vaccine from Vaccitech plus anti-PD-1. And so this is quite interesting because now it's optimizing the timing and the dose of these different components. And it's fairly complex when you think about the different components with 3 different groups here. And this has a couple different timings when PD-1 is added on to the therapeutic vaccine. No data was presented yet, but I think this was the late breaker that was referred to here, and it's going to be presented at AASLD, so that'll be interesting to see that data. And here, this was alluded to by Stuart earlier. GSK is going to present the data on bepirovirsen plus the nuke plus the PEG interferon add-on. This is the B Together study, where these patients got bepi and then they got PEG interferon after that. Sort of the tagline that Stuart didn't say that it was in the abstract is that bepirovirsen responders were the ones that benefited from PEG interferon through prevention of relapse. So that was some sort of improvement of sustained response there. And then, this continues. Some of the Janssen studies are still ongoing, and the follow-up and the data is being reported here. This is the REEF-IT study with patients with immune-tolerant disease that got PEG interferon added onto the nuke and siRNA. And here, this is additional follow-up data, and showing, again, coming back to this topic of interferon alpha, that adding the PEG interferon alpha increased the S antigen declines after levels were reduced by 398. And about 19% of these patients achieved HBs antigen seronegativity in that study. And then Aligos, I think we've already heard from Matt, too, the latest data of extended treatment with the Aligos 184 compound, the CAM capsid assembly modulator. Here we've already seen this data, so I won't go on, but they had very steep HBV DNA declines, and they started seeing patients with S antigen decline. In this case, the abstract had 5 subjects who had completed dosing, with all 4 of them having a significant declines in surface antigen. And then, excuse me, VIR has additional study, and I thought this one was interesting. I put this one in here because it was dosing cirrhotic patients, which are typically not included in studies for safety reasons, but this was a single dose study of the VIR 2218 compound in cirrhotic patients, and basically it was a safety study, and they found that overall the PK and the safety data showed no need to adjust the dose for the VIR 2218. And then the last study I saw here, and it was difficult to find out who the authors were, even where they were from, but it was a nuke plus a TLR7 agonist plus an anti-PD-L1 antibody. And using this in triple combination therapy was associated with S antigen decline at the end of therapy, and that S decline was greater, CH greater than 2 logs and less than 100. Were only observed in the triple therapy arm. They did report AEs, 5 of the 9 patients in the dual therapy and 8 of 9 patients in triple therapy, and they're reported as grade 1 thyroiditis was the most common, and 2 grade 3s, which were neutropenia. So this, to see the data on this could be interesting with this triple combination. So there was actually quite a few biomarker studies and some preclinical data that were also presented. And again, this is coming back to the concept of predicting outcomes after stopping therapy. In this case, it was biomarkers to predict flares after stopping nucleoside analog therapy. And here, this was kind of limited by the sensitivity of the assay, but kind of as expected, a end of therapy core-related antigen levels above 4 logs was associated with biochemical relapse and hepatic flares. And I think one of the other points that were brought up from this one is that no patient who achieved S loss had an end of therapy HBV core antigen level that was above the 3 log, which is the lower limit of quantitation of that assay. Again, coming back to this idea of when is it safe to stop these patients. And so this comes to the idea, this is a GSK study here looking at the inflammation of the hepatitis associated with bepirovirsen and trying to identify biomarkers that predict response. So the antiviral response here, looking at the inflammatory profile during ALT elevation. So how is ALT that is associated with an S antigen decline differ from one that doesn't? And I think this was already mentioned that the ALT increase they looked at here was in the first 12 weeks. And then within the bepirovirsen responders that reached this LLOQ, the ALT increases were significantly more likely early versus late. And these pathways that they found in this analysis was related to interferon gamma signaling, in particular in drug metabolism. The next 2 studies I think were important for biomarkers of response for these RNAi strategies. So mutations within the target binding site for the different drugs, and this is one from Arbutus, and both of them included deep sequencing here, and this one included 31 subjects at baseline, and most of them showed target site conservation. There were single nucleotide polymorphisms observed in particular specific positions, but that the in vitro analysis of using these variants here showed the viral fitness to be greater than 50% of wild type and didn't increase the sensitivity, or didn't decrease the sensitivity to AB729. I have to learn the new term for the drug, but in this case, the mutation didn't impact activity. And another study from GSK looking at the similar thing, looking at the RNAi binding site for the drug to assess if the single nucleotide polymorphisms affect the HBs antigen serum level reduction. And here they had post-baseline sequence information from 49 of 226 that were on nukes and 137 of 229 patients that were not on nukes. And the SNPs out of these patients that had detectable sequences available, about 9% of these patients had SNPs detected in the binding site. And then there were treatment emergent SNPs in patients on nuke and 5 patients that were not on nuke. With the most, there was one SNP in particular, and we have to look deeper into the abstract. Presented at AASLD from Janssen in their INSIGHT study, where they presented the week 0 data at AASLD. In this case, they're showing the week 40 follow-up data, and these patients were receiving an siRNA plus nuke, and they have liver biopsies in this study, so longitudinal liver biopsies. And And what they found, they compared the baseline versus the week 40 biopsies, and I'm only showing a couple of the key virological outcomes that they observed in this, but the good thing is that the predictive mechanism of action worked, that S antigen positive hepatocytes were lower at week 40, and then in group 1, which is the E antigen positive patients, the HBV RNA positive hepatocytes at baseline were just about 100%, but at week 40 that dropped down to less than, between 4 and 28%, depending on the patient. In the E antigen negative patients, you can see here the frequency of RNA positive cells ranged from 9 to 31%, and that declined at week 40. So this was a very interesting translational study showing the impact of siRNA in the liver. And then this one, I thought this was an important one to highlight because it further extends the use of FNAs, and this study has been published, but it's also being presented here. It was Barbara Testoni led this project, and this was using FNAs to look at virology. And in this case, they compared cccDNA and the 3.5 kb RNA by droplet digital PCR in paired FNA and core biopsy samples in patients that were E positive or patients that were E negative. And very interestingly, and I think ideally, that the RNA was detectable in all but one of the FNA samples, and they showed higher levels in E antigen positive patients. There was a correlation of cccDNA quantified in both biopsy and the FNA, and that correlated with serum viral load and correlated antigen. So I think this further supports the use of FNAs in early stage clinical trials, not only where we've used them for immunology, but also to look at the intrahepatic viral reservoir. And then, I think this is the last biomarker slide I have, but this is, further work being done by Gilead to look at the peripheral impact of selgantolimod, a TLR8 agonist. And so these were viremic patients where they had PBMCs available and performed single-cell RNA sequencing. And sort of the take-home was they'd already seen sort of cytokines, biomarker cytokines in the serum, and in this case, in the PBMCs, they saw interferon-stimulated genes being upregulated 4 hours after dosing. And I think, the time after dosing when you're talking about these innate immunomodulators is important, because up to 24 hours, they start to become, at least the cytokines become undetectable in the plasma. So this was also kind of related to some of the discussion that we had earlier, where looking at bepirovirsen as a potential dual activity molecule where it has direct antiviral effect, but also that of innate stimulation through TLR8, and not only looking at TLR8, but whether or not the presence of hepatitis B mRNA might impact inflammation or inflammatory cytokines. And these were all done in a TLR8 transgenic mouse model, so it wasn't a human system here, but basically the observations here were that the transgenic mice were dosed with bepirovirsen or other control antisense oligos to determine if there was something unique to bepi or if it was a ASO dependent effect or controls. The take-home story was the TNF and IL-6 were significantly higher with bepirovirsen than the other ASOs, or the scrambled or the non-inflammatory ASOs, and that the presence of HBV RNA in the AAV HBV mouse model and this TLR8 mouse didn't seem to impact the cytokine production after bepirovirsen treatment. And then there's some development here on the small molecule space, and this is a liver-targeted PD-L1 small molecule being presented by Aligos. They had one previously that was presented at EASL that showed activity that's similar to durvalumab, which is an anti-PD-L1 antibody. This is the next generation of their small molecule, which improves its bioavailability and increases the liver concentration. So one step forward in potentially liver targeting small molecules for checkpoint blockade. And this is something that I referred to here in this last panel discussion. This is a study from Vir, and of course they have the Vir-3434 antibody, which binds to surface antigen, is thought to cause the immune complex formation, and when they've showed very nicely that in vitro you can get uptake into a lot of immune cells. And so this is using clinical data from clinical samples from their studies, and showed that in 6 of the 17 patients where had detectable immune complexes that were being taken up in vivo into neutrophils and monocytes. And so, the higher the preliminary, the baseline HBs antigen, they were more likely to have detectable immune complexes. So this is a nice proof of concept that these are actually working as predicted in vivo in patients. And then this is also talked about sort of early on in Mark's talk this morning about the mechanisms of clearance. And so this is some data that was presented on RG7907 showing that treatment leads to an unexpected sustained S antigen reduction in the AAV-HBV mouse model. And what they found is that the HBV core antigen aggregation led to apoptosis, or aggregation-dependent cell death, and that transcriptomic analysis now in these mice showed host pathways of apoptosis, inflammation, and the interferon response, which might cause a bit of immunomodulation in these patients to get the combined effect. And then there was a couple of delta. I think obviously the most interesting delta abstracts are going to be presented in the late breakers. And Pietro has already sort of alluded to this, and so did Dimitri, that sort of this was showing that longer term bulevirtide treatment for HBV was beneficial. And in this case, they took patients that had non-response or partial response after 48 weeks and gave them, 24 weeks, and gave them up to 96 weeks of bulevirtide. And of the 49 patients without virologic response, nearly half of them, so there was a significant improvement over 96 weeks. In addition to this, the ALT improved in these patients as well. And then last but not least, it was trying to look at predictors of response for hepatitis delta patients. And this sort of comes back to what we see in hepatitis B. The best predictor of response was low delta viremia, sort of like the low surface antigen. So I think I finished on time with that rapid overview of what's coming. There was a number of other abstracts to present, and make sure you catch the late breakers. So thank you.